At 35,000 feet, a 19-year-old black college student gasped for air as the world around her blurred. Her inhaler, her only lifeline, was gone. Tossed away by a flight attendant who claimed, "No liquids allowed." Passengers watched in disbelief, unaware that this careless act of policy would soon make national headlines. Her chest tightened, breaths quickened, and panic filled the cabin. One call from her father would turn this flight into an unforgettable reckoning. What happens when the people meant to protect lives become the ones who endanger them? Watch till the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. For Amara Johnson, 19, this was supposed to be the perfect ending to an inspiring week. A sophomore in college, she had just wrapped up a youth leadership conference in Denver, her first time traveling alone. Confident, bright, and full of purpose, Amara was flying back home to Atlanta to see her family. Her father, Captain Marcus Johnson, was one of the most respected commercial pilots in the country. Ironically, today he wasn't in the cockpit, just waiting at the airport to pick her up. Amara carried her small backpack, her laptop, and her inhaler. Her constant companion since childhood asthma still shadowed her life. The plane's engines hummed softly as she texted her dad, "Boarded! Can't wait to be home." She had no idea that this ordinary flight would soon test the limits of her breath, her faith, and her father's calm. An hour into the flight, the cabin lights dimmed, and Amara took out her water and inhaler to stay comfortable. A flight attendant with a rigid expression paused at her seat, frowning. "Is that medication?" she asked curtly. Amara nodded, explaining that it was her asthma inhaler. The woman's face tightened. "Aerosols aren't allowed outside the bag." "Hand it over." Amara froze. She tried to explain, softly but firmly, that it was prescribed and medically necessary. But before she could finish, the attendant snatched it away, muttering about safety regulations, and disappeared down the aisle. Amara sat still, stunned. A few passengers exchanged uneasy glances, sensing something wasn't right. Minutes passed. The recycled air felt drier, thicker. She coughed, then wheezed. Her chest felt like it was closing in. She pressed the call button repeatedly. The same attendant returned, annoyed. "You're okay. Just relax," she said flatly. But Amara wasn't okay. Her breathing became erratic. A passenger beside her shouted, "She's having an attack!" Chaos erupted. The attendant paled, whispering, "I threw it away!" Gasps filled the cabin. Somewhere between ignorance and arrogance, a young woman's life now hung by a thread, her inhaler gone, her lungs fighting for air, and 200 passengers suddenly witnessing the cost of someone else's prejudice. Amara's vision blurred as she slumped in her seat, each breath shorter than the last. Oxygen masks dropped from above, but everyone knew it wasn't enough. The flight crew called for a doctor, and a nurse on board rushed to help, but nothing replaced what had been thrown away. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "We're making an emergency landing." Amara's phone vibrated. An incoming call from Dad. A nearby passenger answered, voice trembling, explaining what had happened. On the other end, Captain Marcus Johnson's tone turned icy. Within minutes, the airline's headquarters was flooded with internal calls from their own senior pilot demanding answers. By the time the plane landed, emergency crews were waiting, and so was Marcus Johnson. In full pilot uniform, standing on the runway, eyes locked on the crew who had failed his daughter. Amara recovered in the hospital that night, but her father's composure shattered the silence. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to. "You threw away medicine that keeps people alive?" he told the airline officials calmly. "Would you have done that if she didn't look like me?" The flight attendant resigned within days. The airline issued a public apology, calling it a misunderstanding. Still, The story spread across the internet, sparking outrage and reform. New policies were written, and staff across several airlines underwent mandatory medical and bias training. For Amara, the scars weren't physical. They were emotional. She had survived, but she would never forget the moment she couldn't breathe in a world that refused to see her humanity. What would you have done if you saw it happen? Comment on your country and city below. Take care.